These are the NYTWIT solutions explained. Before I go on, I'm going to explain the power rule and the derivatives of sine and cosine one more time. So here we have the power rule, and the power rule is used to differentiate functions. It is the quicker way of taking the derivative rather than doing the whole limit process as learned in the previous section. So here we have x to the power of n being the exponent, and in order to take the derivative of this, we multiply down this exponent, making it nx, and we subtract 1 from the exponent, so it's n minus 1. This is the power rule. The derivatives of sine and cosine are sine of x equals, the derivative of sine of x equals cosine x, and the derivative of cosine equals sine of x. So we need to know these as well to continue. So the first NYTWIT problem is y equals 2x. To take the derivative of y equals 2x, we first write y prime, which means the derivative of. So we're going to bring down this exponent. We're going to bring down this exponent, multiply down, so it's going to be 2x, because 1 times 2 is 2, and the exponent we're going to subtract 1 from it, as stated in the power rule. So 1 minus 1 is 0, so x to the power of 0, and anything to the power of 0 is simply 1. So we can put that into our y prime. Y prime is going to equal 2 times 1, which y prime is only 2. So the derivative of y equals 2x is going to be 2. Our next NYTWIT problem is a little bit longer, but it follows the same process. So y prime is equal to 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract 1 from the exponent is 2, so 2. We continue with the plus, we bring it down. We'll multiply this exponent down, and we're going to get 4. Subtract 1 from this exponent, and we'll get 1. So it's going to be x to the power of 1. We bring down this plus sign, and we take the derivative of this. The derivative of this is going to be, since it's to the power of 1, we multiply down the 1. 1x. 1 minus 1 is 0, and anything to the power of 0 is 1. So 1 times 1 is simply 1. So this is our derivative. The next problem is a sine and cosine problem. So before we move on, the derivative of sine x is cosine x. Knowing this, f prime of x, meaning the derivative of f and x, is going to be 25 cosine of x, because the derivative of sine x is cosine x. For our next problem, we have a similar problem like the one before, but this one requires a little bit more thinking. G of x equals negative 2 cosine of x over 3. In this format, it is hard to take the derivative, so rewriting it in order to make it easier to take the derivative, we get negative 2 over 3 cosine of x. This is the same thing as this, so now it's easier to take the derivative. So g prime of x, the derivative of cosine is negative sine x. Knowing this, we can apply it to our problem. So g prime of x will equal negative 2 over 3 negative sine x. because of this negative, it will multiply with this negative and become positive. So g prime of x equals 2 over 3 sine of x. Our next problem is a simple power rule problem, but now it's with bigger numbers, but it's the same process as before. So y prime is going to equal, this exponent is going to multiply down, and 248 times 3 is 744. X, subtract 1 from the exponent, and that will give us 2, so x to the second power, plus this exponent multiplied down, 4x, subtract 1 from the exponent, that's going to equal 1, so it's to the power of 1. And that is our derivative of y. The next problem requires knowing that the slope equals the derivative. You're going to see this a lot on the AP exam, and always remember that the slope is another way of taking the derivative, and derivative is another way of finding the slope. They are equal to each other. So knowing this, it wants an equation of a tangent line. So we take the derivative. So the first step is to take the derivative. So y prime is going to equal 72x squared plus 4x to the first plus 1. This is our slope, and we want to find it at this point. So we need to plug in this x to our derivative to find the slope, m. So 72 times negative 1 squared plus 4 negative 1 plus 1. We plug in negative 1 into our derivative to find the slope. So that is going to equal 72 minus 4 plus 1. That is going to give us a value of 69. Our slope is 69. Knowing our slope, now we can plug into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We don't know our y value. We don't know what it is, our y1 value. In order to find this y1 value, we plug in this x value into here to find our y value. Since y equals this function, so y equals 24 negative 1 to the third plus 2 times negative 1 to the second plus negative 1. Solving for this, we get negative 23. So that is our y value. So the point is negative 1 comma negative 23. Now that we have our point and our slope for this formula, the slope formula, to find the equation of the tangent line. So plugging in our values, we have y minus y1, which is negative 23. Our slope being 69. And x minus x1 being negative 1. Solving, we get y plus 23 equals 69 x plus 1. Now it becomes a simple algebra problem. We can distribute the 69, 69x plus 69. We subtract that 23 to the other side, and we get y equals 69x plus 46. Remember that if they're asking for an equation, if they don't specifically ask for the y mx plus b format, you don't have to put it in that way, and you can leave your answer as this. If the AP exam doesn't ask for it or the question does. In this case, it doesn't ask for it, so my answer could be left as this, but it's your choice. You can also leave it in this format, the y equals mx plus b format. Our next problem is a lot like the last problem, but this time it's only asking for the slope. And lucky for us, the slope is the derivative. So in order to find the slope, we take the derivative, and the derivative is f prime of x is equal to 6x plus 20. Now we have to plug in this -1 to our derivative to find the slope. So f prime of -1, plugging it in, it's 6 times -1 plus 20. F prime at -1 is -6 plus 20. F prime of -1 is equal to 14. So this is our slope. The next problem is asking for f prime. F prime means take the derivative, and when you have a value in here, it means to plug in 0 wherever you see an x when you take the derivative. So f prime of 0 is going to be the derivative of this f prime, which is 2 cosine x. Now we plug in 0 to our x. 2 cosine of 0. And cosine of 0 is simply 1, so it's 2 times 1. And our answer is 2. F prime of 0 equals 2. Our next problem is a velocity problem, and it says if the velocity is modeled by y equals 3x squared plus 2x plus 5, then what is the acceleration at x equals 4? So velocity, acceleration, position goes from position to velocity to acceleration, and we can take the derivative to find each one. So the derivative of position is velocity, and the derivative of velocity is acceleration. So in order to find the acceleration, we need the derivative of this function. So y prime is equal to 6x plus 2, and it's asking for the acceleration at x equals 4, so we plug in 4 to this equation. So 6 times 4 plus 2 is 24 plus 2, which is 26. So the acceleration at x equals 4 is 26. We are not given any units, so this is the acceleration. Here we have a position and velocity. So you're going to go from position to velocity. So you take the derivative. So y prime is equal to 50x to the 4th plus 2. And this is the function of velocity.